Hello and welcome to another edition of the Entrepreneur Journey. And I'm so glad to have Julia Langley with me. Julia and I have gotten to know each other over the last few months. She is a very interesting person, which we will find out here in a minute. How are you today, Julia?
I'm doing great. I love Monday mornings. I love my job, and I'm like, it's a new day, it's a new week. Let's go. So I'm excited this morning.
Nice, nice. Yeah, we were just talking off of camera, all the technical difficulties, and it just seems to comes with Mondays sometimes.
It does.
So,
Absolutely. Well, whatever. You just got to flow around them like water. That's what I say.
that's right. That's right. So tell everyone who you are and kind of what you do.
Well, I've been working for Cirque du Soleil for 18 years. So I'm a singer and I've sung with them and had the wonderful good fortune to travel all the way around the world and sing in 20 different countries and all 50 states in the US. And in recent years, and I think we're going to get into this a little later, there were some profound things that happened in my life, but it gave me the opportunity to expand into my coaching business a little bit more. So I'm really focused on helping speakers and singers and other high-level performers learn how to get on the stage, overcome stage fright, and really step into their power and learn to give commanding performances on whatever stage I be on. So that's a passion of mine and lots of experience. I'm not going to tell you how many years because that would give away my age. So we're there a long time. How about that?
Well, you started when you were like 3, right?
That's it. Actually, if you want to be honest, it is the truth. I started at 2. My first performance was at the age of 2. So yeah, we're not lying, Doug. We're telling the truth.
Nice, nice. Well, we're going to get into your whole story in just a minute. But first, I like to always ask my guests just some getting to know you questions. Since I know you're a singer, I would love to know your favorite song to sing.
Okay. And that was pretty easy for me. One of my favorite songs, I love Shirley Bassey. All right. I'm going old school on this here, but, and I love that she is the ultimate James Bond girl. And she did the theme of a James Bond movie called Diamonds Are Forever. And that is hands down my favorite song to sing. It's a rock and powerhouse song. And it's just fun. I love it.
Nice.
Diamonds Are Forever.
Nice. So just a random question. If you were to open a restaurant, what would definitely be on the menu?
Okay, well, I would love to say, with all the new healthy stuff going on, that it would be a vegan restaurant or, something very healthy, but no. I am a meat and potatoes girl, and I love churrasco steak with the best chimichurri sauce on the planet. So yeah, that would be on the menu with some knock out of the park chimichurri every day.
Yeah. And for those of you that have not had chimichurri sauce on a steak, have it very, very soon. It is amazing.
Go to a Cuban. There's in Delray Beach, Florida. There, I'm giving a shout out. There's my favorite restaurant. It's called Cabana El Rey. It's a nice white cloth Cuban restaurant. Everything in there is good. The paella, the sangria, even the mojitos have sugar cane in there, and the little sticks. But the chimichurri is to die for. So yes, that would be my model for sure.
Nice, nice. I don't go off on a tangent, but one of my favorite, it's a regional chain now, but a friend of mine opened he's Cuban, and he opened a restaurant called Tropical Grill, and it's more counter service, but it is one of the best Cuban sandwiches I've ever eaten in my life.
Where is that, Doug? I need to know. Where is it?
I'm in the upstate of South Carolina, so there's one. I think he actually has one in Charlotte too.
Okay,
but it's like lower North Carolina, all the way through South Carolina. Tropical Grill. It's real good. A lot of rice and chicken, and sauces.
Yeah, and this is definitely this in Delray. It's definitely a little bit of a Spanish fusion type food, because paella is from Spain, of course, and so is the sangria. But listen, the mojitos and the chimichurri sauce, the rice and bean. Now you're making me hungry. Now I got to go find some Cuban food.
It is
I-
lunchtime.
I think I'm going to South Florida this weekend, so I think I'm gonna have to hit up some Cuban food Saturday. As soon as my plane lands, I'm
Nice.
in Alabama right now, so going for
Nice, yeah.
Cuban food.
I'm not sure if you're going to have many options for Cuban food in Alabama.
Maybe Birmingham. There's probably some
Maybe,
restaurants.
yeah.
Or Atlanta. I'm close to Atlanta, actually,
Yeah.
even though I'm in Alabama, I'm not far from Atlanta. So I know they got some good Cuban over there too. So
Yeah.
but you're making my mouth water.
Nice. Well,
For lunch.
I know I'm hungry too. So as soon as this interview's over, I'm going to be having some lunch. Um, my next getting to know you question is, if you're cast in a movie, what would your dream role be?
Well, let me just tell you, it was really funny when I read this question, because one of my long-term goals is actually to be on the Hallmark Channel with my own movies.
Nice.
And the reason I say this, there's this little bit of a story behind this, Doug, and it's a bit of a heartfelt story, very close and near and dear to my heart. In close to where I grew up in Alabama is a community theater called the New Horizon Theater. And it is a small black box theater in what we would call a small town, small area, but it services a giant area: Atlanta, Columbus, LaGrange, like all these big metropolitan areas. And people come from all over to participate in this theater. So 14 years ago, I started doing a summer performing arts intensive at this theater, which has grown into an off-Broadway show. It's my
Nice.
biggest show. Yeah. Ooh, you see my brain exploding while I'm talking about it. But as an offshoot of that, I started doing a show, a give back. This is my holiday give back. And I started doing a show called Once Upon a December at Christmas time, or during the holidays, if you will. And the show started out very small. And I brought in local performers, and all of the money that we raised for during the show, the proceeds of the show, went to scholarships. So the theater turned around and gave these scholarships, gave this money to graduating seniors who were thespians and were going off to school. So every year they had an awards banquet, and we raised money. So what started off very tiny, now we're in our 8th or 9th year of doing the show. What happened though, were these performers, young performers that started doing it, their parents started seeing what was happening. And their parents were like, maybe I want to get involved. And I said, okay. So fast forward 8 years later, we have a dad, football player, tough athlete guys, singing with their sons. And these are real examples. These are not out there examples. Okay. The dad, his 2 sons, they all 3 get on stage, they sing together. A mom and her whole family, and they're singers and performers. One's in Dollywood right now. The other was like first runner up to Miss Georgia Outstanding Teen. Like these are and they're singing with their parents and their brothers and their sisters, and they're standing up. There's so much heart in this show. Like I couldn't have you can't plan this kind of stuff, This is what resulted of just years of doing it and watching it evolve. So as I started singing this, I'm like, this is everything that the Hallmark Channel stands for. Love, family, coming home, scholarship, charity, like everything that they stand for. I mean, the only thing missing is the romantic story, which I could write one of those too, because I'm not married and I'm coming home. So maybe I'll meet somebody here at home. My friend
There
says,
you go.
there's the ending to your story.
Yep,
So
yep.
really, we have the story already. We have it written, the story's there. And so when I saw this question on there, I'm like, oh my goodness, I get to talk about, this is one of my, I don't know if you want to call it bucket list. It's a reach. I know it's a reach, but you can't reach if you can't dream it. So
That's right.
There it is. So it's actually a real story of family and fellowship and the holidays. And it actually, it's the real Hallmark story.
Well, I don't watch a lot of Hallmark movies, but I would watch that one.
Oh, thank you. Well, I just gotta get it out there, and you can't do it if you're the world's best kept secret. Got to get that story out there and get it to the right people, because I truly believe that it is because it is a true story, it isn't made up. Like people, it reaches way down to our soul, men and women alike, you know, and what's really important in life. So there it is. There it is.
I will say my wife and daughter have seen almost all the Hallmark movies. So they are huge fans. And if anyone from the Hallmark channel happens to be watching, make this movie.
I'd love to connect, at least talk about it, you know, talk about how the steps that we need to take to really be recognized. I mean, West Point, Georgia, little town with a big heart. It's got Hallmark written all over it.
Yep. That's the tagline, little town, big heart right there for the Hallmark
big heart.
movie.
That's
Nice.
exactly right.
So let's dive into your story, like how you got into performing. Let's just put as much of it out there as you want to put out there, but I want to hear your story because I am intrigued.
Well, it is you kind of have to start at the beginning, which I'm going to jump because you don't want to hear everything in between, but I'll give you the highlights. You know, I started singing when I was 2, so that's a true story. And I started actually in church. You know, I grew up in a small town in Alabama, and, you know, you don't have the opportunities. Well, we think we don't, that a big city would have. But the truth is I had opportunities. What I had the opportunity to do in a small town was have someone stand me up in front of a group of people and say, hey, do what you did the other day in your living room, because it's informal. So that's what happened to me at 2 years old. The minister of the church was like, I have something I want you guys to hear. I didn't know. I didn't care. I was 2. I was like, whatever. I'm sitting in my mama's lap, you know, Julia, come up here and sing this song. So I came up in this song I had been singing. I just belted it out in front of the parishioners, or the members of the congregation, if you will. And that thus began my singing career. Fortunately, I had parents that really supported that and fostered music in our family from a very early age. I took piano lessons. I took dance lessons. I sang all the time. It just was, music is part of who I am. I don't know a life without it, and I don't want a life without music in it. And as I grew in my experience, I grew in my knowledge, and continued just to step out there, get more confidence, and moved through the levels of performing. When I graduated from college, I graduated with a business degree and worked in the business world, in marketing, as a matter of fact, for a while. But the music called to me. It called to me. So I reached out. It wasn't me. It was a very dear friend of mine. She said, Julia, I was in South Florida. She said, Julia, they're doing a Vita at the local theater. You need to do it. So she pulls the ad out. She hands it to me. Okay. I had no idea really what I was doing from a business standpoint with music. You know, I've done other business, but not specifically the right way to do it, the right kind of headshot, the right kind of resume. You know, you don't know what you don't know, right? And thank goodness I didn't know, because I look back on my first material that I released. I was like, oh my God, who would have ever picked me?
You got to be willing to be bad in order to be great.
I mean, we could do a whole session for an hour on talking about this. And as I get into this, I have another instance of that too. And this is on every single level, because as you grow, you're starting over again. You have to be willing to be at the bottom if you want to climb that ladder with it. So at that point, I was like, okay, here's a headshot, 5x7, needed to be an 8x10, whatever. I just turned it in and showed up, right? And I got cast. Now, here's the interesting thing. When you are in alignment with what you're supposed to do, things start happening, right? So it was a Vita. The show was a Vita. And the girl that opened the show had already been precast before. And so they were casting ensemble, and I made it into the ensemble. But the girl that was precast and I could pass for twins. We looked just alike. And as a matter of fact, later in my career, we've actually doubled shows for each other, and people called me her and they called her me. That's how much we look alike. They couldn't tell the difference between us. So what happened in that show is when we had to have stand-ins, who did they choose? They chose me to do it. So this little tiny role that I had in the show all of a sudden turned into a big role. I started getting put in different areas in the show that I didn't even know. So, a lot of people want to quit when they get this tiny, small part. But what they don't know is if you can take that part and own it, that part will grow, right? And then you get more responsibility and people see that they can depend on you. So that's what started happening. And I made connections. Well, it just so happens that the girl that I looked so much alike was also doing what we call the cabaret scene, where you do independent concerts, go in, agents book you, you go out, you do a concert, you have an act, like a Vegas style act, if you will. I said, this is really cool. I want to do it. So that's what I started doing. And as I grew in my career, I was like, what's the next step? I would say cabaret. Of course, cabaret is a pretty big deal. Like you have to have an act, you have to sell yourself. So I just saw Cirque du Soleil. Oh, I had just been to see a Cirque show and I was fascinated. And I just saw this ad. Come audition. Okay.
Yeah. Why not?
So I went and I auditioned. And the person that auditioned me actually wound up being one of my best friends in the world, still to this day. One of my best friends in the world. But I got the job. And 18 years later, I got more shows, more work. I started doing corporate work, industrial work, bigger shows. People started calling me. I got into the coaching business. I started helping others learn how to take those steps and do the same thing that I did. It is not easy being in the entertainment industry.
I imagine it's not.
And one of the biggest things is that you really need help. I had a lot of help. I had a lot of help along the way. And I would be remiss in saying, oh, I did this. I didn't do it alone. It takes a village. And everything you do, it takes a village. Even as a director, where the buck stops here, and it does, when I'm directing, I have to be, the people that work with my staff is like, oh, she's in director mode. Don't mess with her. Yeah. So I have to be that way. But even then I recognize fully that I could not do it alone. I could not do it without the help of people who are committed. It takes an amazing amount of commitment, but they are committed. And the show that we do at Christmas time or during the holidays, it's not paid. No one gets paid to be there.
Wow.
So we have a band. We have 20 singers and they don't get paid to do it. They do it because they love it. And when you love it, there's nothing stopping you.
That's right. That's right. I totally believe that.
So that is the evolution of my performing career. In 2019, that changed. And I know we're going to get into that a little bit, but
so actually, we're going to get into that now, unless you have more story to tell right there. So I know that through all these years of performance, you have started a coaching business off of that. So let's kind of dive into how you help people there. Public speaking, no matter what industry you're in nowadays, with social media being such a prevalent thing, the ability to be in front of people and perform is very key, and be able to be a good public speaker. So can you give us some tips on conquering the number one fear most people have, and that is public speaking?
And that's exactly right. Very interesting. I did a masterclass on Saturday morning on this very thing, and I'll probably do another one in a couple of months, certainly. So anyone that's listening can tune in. It was a complimentary masterclass. So, nice. and we specifically talk about overcoming stage fright and fear. Let me give you a little bit of a backstory on this, because I've always been a coach. And when I was home from touring, I would pick up people who were interested in doing it and work with them one-on-one. In 2019, and Doug, I don't know if we've really talked about this that much, but in 2019, I had a really bad accident. So I'm on top of my game, right? I'm like riding high, touring all over the world, traveling everywhere, When I'm home in South Florida, I'm boating and fishing. I'm living that South Florida lifestyle, Palm Beach, out all the time, whatever. I think
Yeah.
I got the world by the tail. Well, the world has a way, the universe has a way of bringing you down. Whenever you think that you are in control of everything, you are not. And I was riding my bicycle, getting an oil change, jumped on my bicycle to go get coffee. And I crossed an intersection and got hit by a car.
Mm.
And I don't mean tapped by a car. I mean, broadsided up on the hood out in the street. And that one instant in my life changed forever. Everything changed. And I had a lot of injuries that went really undiagnosed. About 80% of my injuries went undiagnosed.
Wow.
I had a spinal cord injury. I had a double traumatic brain injury. I had 5 broken bones. And I literally walked around with 5 broken bones and broken ribs, and my hands, I couldn't open both of my hands were black from here up, and I couldn't open Tupperware. I couldn't walk. I couldn't drive. And about 3 months after the accident, I was diagnosed with PTSD.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm open about it. I mean, some people are afraid to admit it because there's certainly stigmas attached to it, but it really opened my eyes because I had no idea. I thought that only happened to veterans, people who witnessed wartime, but no, people who actually come in face to face with mortality, that creates that PTSD moment that's burned into their brains. And it's not anxiety. It's not getting nervous. For me, it manifests itself in loud noises. So if I go to a concert, which I did, this actually happened to me. I went to a concert, everything's great. I'm singing, I'm dancing, and they shoot a cannon off like a boom, right? It's just no sparks, but just the noise. So my trigger is a noise. And I just ran out of the stadium. So it's a fight or flight thing. So I really I'm really big about talking about PTSD, about mental health, and ways that we learn how to manage things like that and control it. So before I get too much into the weeds here, that moment changed everything. Now, I talk about resilience because I could have either stayed in that moment or I could have dug my way out. And I'm still digging my way out, but I would say I'm pretty much on the other side. I do have one more knee surgery. I've had 4 surgeries and I have one more surgery to go on my knee, but I'm a different person. I'm grateful. I'm excited to get up in the morning. I'm so looking forward to helping my clients. All right. So when you want to talk about fear, I'll go back to your question. I had so much fear after my accident. I would get on stage. I was afraid I'd fall down, like I couldn't walk. I was afraid that I couldn't catch my breath because I had 2 broken ribs. It changed my breathing. I was so scared that I would forget the words because I had a traumatic brain injury. So definitely there are things that we can do to learn how to manage that fear. And everybody's fear is a little bit different. All right. But I'll give you just a couple of things. You need to recognize, number one, that a lot of times you have to ask for help. That is the number one things. And I've mentioned asking for help earlier because I could not be where I am in my career if I had not asked for help. No matter what level you are on, we still need help. And to get me out of this, I asked one of my clients to help me in the show one time. And she got to stand up on stage and she got a standing ovation. I just want you to know for the job she did. So that's one of the biggest things that you can do. Another thing that I like to use, I'll leave one more tip with you on this, is I like to use laughter. I laugh at myself all the time. And I don't mean in a self-deprecating kind of way. I'm not putting myself down. But I do mean that I don't take it too seriously, whatever it is, right? The day I went to show my house to sell it, I had 10 people come to see my house and my house flooded. 8 years of living there, my house never flooded. I had 3 inches of water on my floor. Okay, I can cry. Or I can, you know what I did? The first thing I did was go in my kitchen and make myself some coffee and sit down. I just sat there and I thought, so that's how this is going to go today, huh? This is how this is going to go. So I say that to laugh at the situation because it balances out the tension. All right.
Yeah. It's funny because I noticed that our pastor at our church, for instance, is a really good public speaker. And he often will say something that is not self-humiliating, but makes people look at him and like he's just a regular guy. Like he talked about this past weekend about tripping over the curb and twisting his ankle. He's like 50 years old and he's rolling around on the ground. So, but he's an amazing public speaker, and I think kind of get what you're saying is he doesn't take it overly seriously, right?
That's
And
cool.
that
Well, it makes it relatable too, but because, when you see a really good public speaker up on stage, you think, oh my God, how can I ever achieve that? How can I ever become that? I'm introverted. You might say that, or you might say I'm shy, or I trip over my words, or I can't remember. I'm afraid I'll miss. I mean, we could go on and listing things that people conjure up in their brain about stepping out on stage. There are a million fears. Mine was falling down, just forgetting, and so my memory still doesn't work for me sometimes. Like I still sometimes forget things. So we could go on, but what that does, it just makes people look at you and go, oh, you're human like I am.
yeah.
You make mistakes. It's just how learning, and it's a skill. It's not, you're not born that way. It's a skill, learning how to be a good speaker, how to be a good performer on stage. And so just my message to each and anybody out there who is embracing that stage fright or trying to deal with it, you're not going to be, but you have to make that commitment to yourself, not to stay stuck, not to be in that place of fear. And taking that step can be extremely difficult. I can say that because I've been there. But discomfort's where it all happens. You can't grow. You don't take the risk. It's just like the stock market. You're not going to make any money if you don't take a risk somewhere.
That's right. Yep.
So,
and you had mentioned getting help, right?
that's right.
That is very key, because I always say, you can be stuck or you can be going slow until you get help, right? When you get help, you can speed up where you want to go.
Absolutely. You know what? You just hit the nail right on the head. The process goes so much faster. It just goes faster. You have support. You have people telling you things, a new perspective, way to think about something that you've never thought of before. And you also get constructive feedback as well. Hey, let's do this. Let's work on this messaging. Let's talk about what you're presenting to the world, because you get caught up in your own head. You have no idea how others are perceiving you. You think you're putting out something and they're throwing down something completely different.
Yep.
So sometimes it's hard to see that without help.
Yeah. And we could go down this for a while, but I think it works both ways. Like you may be thinking you're putting something out there amazing, but nobody's telling you need to tweak these things. But then at the same time, you may be thinking so harshly on yourself about the things and it's actually, the audience is perceiving it much better than you think that they are. You just said the magic words right there. Let me tell you, because I have said that in my own, talking to my own friends. Oh my goodness. I love it when I'm doing something and then I realize what I was doing was right. It's almost a validation for you. But with that validation comes confidence that you didn't have before. Mm-hmm. And once you reach that level of validation and confidence, then you can rise to a different level and work on that level. So big point. Thank you. Another question: how much effect does the ability to be good on camera or be able to speak on stage have on the magnitude of success an entrepreneur specifically could have?
These days it's huge, and there are different things you do on camera than you do on stage. And I will go back to my acting skills and techniques that I use. Someone doing film is going to handle themselves completely different than someone that's on a stage. You'll notice Broadway actors are different, a little bit different, some crossover, but oftentimes it's a completely separate entity. All right. So there are different techniques that you use, but as an entrepreneur, and really not just an entrepreneur, but a lot of different fields, even let's say you're an attorney now, even half the things that you do are on camera. So it's important to understand the differences between what you need to do for each, the branding, the look that you have, it all goes into how you're being perceived on the camera. But it's so important because we're in a world it's a hybrid world now. COVID changed everything. And there's nothing replacing live, but it's here to stay. Virtual's here to stay.
Yeah.
And it opens the world for us. So it's a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So another question, tell us how entrepreneurs perform on stage or on camera and hence increase their opportunities and audience. This is kind of like the same question, but a little bit different. So how do they, like, if you're good on camera, or if you're good on stage, how can that increase your opportunities and build your audience?
Well, I'm not sure I understand. Can you ask me that question one more time so I make sure I understand what
and maybe I'll phrase it a different way.
Okay.
As entrepreneurs, I think being good on camera and being good on stage, like speaking at an event, for instance, would increase opportunities and your reach, your audience, the amount of people that you can reach. So I guess the question that I'm asking you is just give me your thoughts on that. Like if someone, like just say, let's just take an example of someone that feels like they're an introvert and doesn't want to get out there. The difference of getting out there makes versus not getting out there.
Oh, well, you have to make that this is one of the things that I talk about is making a commitment. I mean, and a lot of times you can't do that alone either. You need that accountability. You need someone setting that schedule for you and saying, this is what you need to do. And this is how you need to work on it. All right. Because even practicing is its own skill in itself. Preparedness is its own skill in itself. It's like taking a test. Some people don't know how to take a test. Some people don't know how to prepare, but it's really vitally important that you engage, even in virtual and social media. So for example, Clubhouse. I love the Clubhouse app. It's not a video app, but one of the things Clubhouse does is it opens it up to the world. So someone over, as I don't know, in an Asian country can jump on a call with people from the United States in a completely different time zone on the other side of the earth and listen in and meet each other. Okay, but you can't meet other people if you're not willing to raise your hand and join in the conversation. And one of the things I might suggest, like even on Clubhouse, and every social media app is going to be a little bit different, but utilize social media. Instead of looking at it as a bad thing, don't look at it as an opportunity to expand your network. And when you raise your hand and join it, some rooms are so huge, you don't have that opportunity. Find a room with a medium-sized number of people, or a room that's just a startup that's growing. Jump in that room, especially if you're an introvert and you're shy. That way the risk that you're taking is small. So when you're first starting out, you want to get your toe in, but that's a great way to do it and start to build that network, start to build that confidence up. But, you have to ultimately make that decision to raise your hand.
Yep. I totally agree. And speaking to that, I have a mastermind, as you know, that's kind of like about 20 people when we hop on there now. And it's an excellent place for those. We've had people just come in and just kind of sit in the back and listen. And then when they come back the next time, they start to engage, and they're starting to grow their network. So very, very good point.
It is. And your mastermind's great. I'm in there. It's
Thank
on
you.
Fridays for anyone that's just passing through.
Fridays at noon inside of the Entrepreneur Journey group. So if you're listening to this on the podcast or on the YouTube channel and you are not in the Entrepreneur Journey group, go find it on Facebook and join in. We'd love to have you. Julia, let's talk about how people can connect more with you, and what your coaching program and how you help people. So kind of explain what you do.
Well, absolutely. Well, what I do is, and I am taking a few clients right now, actually, is we work on different skills. We work on messaging, clarifying your messaging, and making sure that your message is actually in alignment with who you are and what you're doing.
Mm.
And then we take that message and we actually put that message in a format where you can present it. All right. And we go through the whole process of preparedness. Now, I also work with other performers as well. So if you're in the acting industry or the singing industry, there's so many similarities. That's the thing. There's so many similarities between performance, whether you're an actor, a singer, a speaker, an attorney, because there are formulas, to the performance that you're going to be doing and what you're actually putting out there, your message. And ultimately, that message is what's so important. Getting that message across. So what is your media for getting it across? Are you a speaker? Are you doing it in song? All right. So think about that, first of all. So this is who I work with: speakers, singers, other high-level performers that are looking to take their game to the next level. All right. Maybe you have some stage fright, some fear. We address that. We get you ready. If you have a competition, you have an audition, I'm your girl. All right. We can get you ready. If you have a big keynote speech that you need to give next week, I get people ready for those things. All right. So I have a 6-month program. I have a 12-month program that I do as well. And I'm open right now to talking to people about it and just getting their roadmap to giving commanding, confident performances and getting them started on that journey. And that's really what my coaching program is all about. So if you're on that side and you want to move to the other side, I can help you do it. And I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen.
Nice.
I have to tell this story because this is very quick, but I had this one client I worked with. I'm a singer and a speaker. Okay. So I need you to audition for the show that we're doing. No, she would run. Okay, I need you to stand up and I need you to give a 3-minute talk. That's part of your audition. Couldn't get her out of the bathroom. This is a true story.
Wow.
Then it would come back. Okay, we have to set up the audition. She would blow it off. I gave her so many in the bathroom. Okay. At some point, I felt like I'm trying to drag this person out by their hairs, kicking and screaming. It was like pulling teeth, right?
Mm-hmm.
But finally, she said, okay, okay, enough tears. I have to do something about this, because not only is this about performance, but it's bigger than that. This is about me being able to communicate with people, me being able to change my attitude, my perspective on relationships. Like, it spilled into so many aspects of this person's life. I want you to know, to this day now, this girl is standing up on the stage in Atlanta, Georgia, telling people why they should pick her as a representative for their state.
Wow.
This is who I am, and this is what I have to offer. It's a miracle. It's a walking miracle. It's not, I say miracle. It's not really a miracle. It's hard work, commitment, preparedness.
And being willing to be uncomfortable.
Exactly.
Right. Just like we alluded to before. It's just amazing. Like, when people can break through that comfort zone, what can happen on the other end.
It's the hardest part, though, because when you're in that comfort zone, that fear is what's protecting you. But I talk about PTSD, that fear I have of those loud noises. It thinks it's protecting me, but it's not, because there is no danger. There's no danger. What's on the other side of that boom is a great concert and good time with friends. What's on the side of that big boom for an entrepreneur is expansion, growth, clients, exposure, opportunity. I could go on, but it's the same thing. It's the same thing. That fear is false.
So how do people tap into what you have to offer, is there a link that we can provide them underneath the video or in the show notes of the podcast?
Absolutely. They can contact me directly. I am very active on social media. One of the easiest ways, probably right off, to get in touch with me is either on Facebook or through Instagram. Direct message me, and I will. I'll get a link out to you. We can set up a coffee chat. We can talk about it. We get this roadmap to success for you going. So my Facebook is my name, Julia.Langley. That's an easy one right there. And you can find me by my name on Instagram or Cirque Singer Jules, Jules. That is my Instagram handle as well. I do have a website, but honestly, the best way is just to DM me on social media. I check those every hour. And if you DM me, you let me know, we'll connect and then talk and meet each other and just get to know each other a little bit and connect. So that's the best way to do it right now, Doug.
I just realized this, you and I are a lot alike in that aspect. I have websites, landing pages, all that stuff, but let's cut through all that and get to the relationship, right?
That's right.
Let's start talking.
Maybe that's our Southern roots, our Southern U.S. roots. We like that connection there, Doug. Yeah. I don't know, but you know what? I think that it's in the connections that you really start to understand. I mean, when I work with anyone, I want to know who they are, and I want to know what makes them passionate and what drives them. Because I can sit here and I can give you content all day long, but until I know what your fears are, until I know what is holding you back and what your strengths are, because everyone has a different strength. Everyone is unique. So until I know what those things are, I can't sit here and tell you, hey, this is what you need to say, or this is how you need to say it. It's a relationship, and it is us, working together to help you find those unique points in who you are and put those out forward, because we all have them, and listen, and also, and I want to add this, knowing what is not your strength and being okay with that. All right. Learning how to maneuver around it, because we all have those too. It's like, it's like I laugh at singers when you have someone that sings and you tell them, and they're like, I can't sing up there, trying to make them be a high singer when they're not, or vice versa. You are who you are. Own who you are. Own who you're not. Be okay with it, and just learn how to step out and shine. And that's nice. What my coaching program's all about.
Nice. I always ask before we close the show for the guests to leave some parting words for our audience of entrepreneurs. So if you have some words of wisdom to pass on.
I do. And my words of wisdom today is just don't wait any longer. Okay. You're not going to be any more comfortable waiting. If your discomfort is there today, your discomfort is going to be there next week, until you start committing yourself to changing that. And don't try to get everything perfect before you start, because you're just not going to. Very quickly, I'll say this, you can go out and buy all this branding. And I've been down this road, and I can say this from experience. You go out and you get all this branding, you get all these logos, you get all this stuff. And a year later, you are different and you want different. Okay. That is not I mean, branding's great. So for all you people out there into branding, I'm not trying to throw you guys under the bus. It's great in a time and a place. Mm-hmm. But when you are learning how to make those connections, learning what your gifts are, learning how you put that out there, then you're going to determine your branding. All right. Then you're going to determine, hey, this is what I'm doing, and let me put my big logo up there so you can see that representation of who I am. And that's what I have to say. It's uncomfortable today, but a year from now, hey, so is being in the same place a year from now. That's really uncomfortable too. So
Very true.
take the step.
It's
make
a
it
shame
happen.
that that's the parting words of wisdom, because everything that you just said there, I feel like we could have a conversation around and carry on.
Well, it's
But
really true. And maybe we have another one day.
yeah, yes.
It's true though.
Yes, very, very
Just,
true. So
just start.
start taking action and be willing to be uncomfortable. Thank you so much, Julia. And
I've enjoyed
for
it.
and for all the trailblazers out there, thank you, and we will see you next time. And until then, keep moving forward.